All right. We are live. It's good to be back for Code with Me. And we are working on a special project. We are creating a save reminder extension. This was a popular request from one of our ambassadors, Chris Scott. And so I thought we could knock this out in here. And you can see how I'm building it, and it will be a useful extension for folks. So let's get started. Hey, Data Juggler, welcome. If you're here, let me know. Okay, so we'll just jump right into it. I have code up and running. I created a new extension using the plus button here, and I called it Matty Codes Notify Reminder. So we are all set to start here. So if I come, and then that obviously launched Visual Studio Code with the project open. So if we come over here, get rid of that. Here's our window. So everything good so far. I'll dock this down here for now. We may get rid of it. But the basic idea of this extension is we want to be able to, it's just a timer. It's on a timer. Every 5-10 minutes, whatever the user specifies, we'll have some settings for it. It will just open a pop-up and say, hey, you should save your scene. So pretty common in lots of apps. There's different ways to handle it. You can auto save and things like that. But Chris asked for this specifically, so I figured I would just get his input on how he wanted it to work, and this is what he said was useful to him. So so it's gonna pop up a window every few minutes and just remind you to save. We may throw in some buttons in there to give you the option to just click the button to save, or we may just dismiss it and then leave it up to the user to go ahead and do that. There are different ways that you may want to save. For example, do you want to do a full save of the stage, or do you want to are you picky about which layers you might save? So Chris had some different requirements for that, but I think we can start out with just let's just get that window popping up every few minutes, and I think that's a pretty good start. Hello, welcome. So let's jump into it. We have this default stuff here, which is fine. I guess we can lay out this window now. So for the most part, it's just going to be one button here. So we can get rid of the second one, get rid of this H stack. Later on, if we change our mind, we can add in a save and a cancel button. But for now, it's just going to be an OK button. And it's not going to do anything for now. And the label will be, hey, don't forget to save. There. All right, so if we did all that correctly, this window should update now. It undocked because I changed the window title, but if I dock it now, it should be any new saves. Am I okay with the exclamation point? So far so good. That was the easy part. We don't need this public API stuff. And we need to set up a timer. That's the main thing, actually. So I guess on startup we can set that up. The key thing will be to set it up as an async function. So move this over. Well, we can keep it. So let's do that really quick. Import async IO. Not sure if I want this to be a member function of the extension. Let's leave it out for now. And we can use carb just in case here. So this should be kind of an interesting, I know it's simple, but it should be kind of interesting too. Interesting elements like this this timer and asynchronous bits here. And I guess we can sleep 5 seconds. I think there's even I think async IO has a special sleep function. I don't know what the difference is, honestly. It looks like it works fairly similar. I'd have to look at some usage for that to see if the usage is any different, but time.sleep is going to be fine. Cool. So we're just gonna do that, and if we do async IO dot ensure future. Actually, async is not a separate thread. So the async actually uses coroutine. So all of this is actually running on the same thread, but it's sharing. But the async functions are sharing the thread. So instead of blocking, it will swap out, and there are some situations where IO input output sort of functions. It will switch context to the other coroutine and execute that one. Yeah, I'm not sure about C#, but definitely this is not firing up new threads. All right. So it should fire once. Let's give it a shot. I may have done that wrong, but we'll see. So I'm getting this exception Why don't I know how to do timer? Just all right, sorry. I had a preschooler that stayed home from school breaking into my room. Okay, so let's quickly look that up. Why don't I know how to do this? Import time. Oh, it's the module, not the. We can do that. Try to get fancy up here. Okay. Yeah, my son wakes up at 7, so I wish I had that. Okay, so I went ahead and fired. And did that wait 5 seconds? I'm not sure. Maybe that's what we need the just a little bit longer just to, I don't know if that was just the extension reloading or what. It looks like I'm blocking. Let's try the async IO sleep. Probably why we want that one. That looks a lot better, except for the, yeah, we need to await. Await, give up the thread, and then when it returns, it'll do its thing. That fired immediately. This is in seconds, right? Yeah. Well, another thing we can do, just as a sanity, is have it call itself. Oops, 0. Well, I won't leave this like this, but sanity check here. I'll run that a number of times there. Invalid syntax, where? Probably here. Okay. Hit another one though. It fired there. And it's not going to fire again. It's doing a wait here. Hey, look at that. Admittedly, async IO is still fairly new to me, so getting the right incantation to get it to work is, at least that's how it feels to me. Cool. So that fired. Why did this work? So we're awaiting on the sleep. So this code won't run until that has completed the whole 5 seconds. And then we await the reminder every time. So this isn't actually going to return. I think what the reason that we were getting that error earlier was this was returning immediately. And I wasn't catching it down here. So so technically this function won't, the first time I call this function, it won't return until all of them have been called. There may be a better way to do this with async IO. I've done timers with other frameworks that have like one-offs or one-shot timers that might work better, because this is obviously could reach some sort of recursion depth if I keep calling it multiple times. So maybe it's better to fire an event to say, hey, go ahead and requeue up another timer loop. I might go with that for now. Okay, so we'll use carb events for that. I think that'll be good. And yeah, I think that's a good next step. So carb events. Yeah, so you could create a Pomodoro timer. It's like programming 101, right? And a bit of a struggle for me. So what are we looking for? We're looking for the Kit Python snippets. We have a way to create custom events, and we're going to create a couple, at least a couple, I think. So let's get this in there. And do we need Kit app? Yeah, because that's going to give us the message bus. Okay. So a few more imports here. And let's put this at the top. Okay. So we got those bits. We're gonna create an event ID here. Save reminder fired. And my extension is Medicodes Notify. I thought this was a good extension name because if there are any other reminders that I want to notify about, I could build it into this. Okay. Then we get the message bus. We'll get that early on. Just copy all of it. And then now we're saying, hey, I want to create a subscription to this event, and we're going to fire that function. We'll make that function in a second, but what I want to do also is once on shutdown, we need to make sure that subscription is cleared out. We don't want that firing after we've restarted or anything like that. We don't need this. I don't know if we need custom payload, but we'll find out. So here, here's where we're going to push the message. Self push, save, remain required, and payload. I don't think we need. And that's where we're going to use this function. Okay, so a little roundabout, but I think this will kind of disconnect us from the timer, the business logic from the timer. So on save reminder, we'll move this over here. And so then this function can finish, and this one I could call another one. Now I'll have a better way to do this, but for now, just to get something running here. Yeah, the snippet is this one here. So I just searched kit Python snippets. And cool. So we're going to call that. This is no longer awaitable there. I have global there. I think that should do it. So we should get the 3 fires. I messed up there. That's supposed to be a self.bus. Self.bus.push. Yeah, so the on-save reminder takes it callback receives this event, a carb event object. So we can also print that out just to see what that looks like too. The most important thing from this object is the payload if we provide one. Because of the way that we subscribed by type, we don't need to check the type. We know that this function is only going to get called when this type is sent. So we can get rid of that now. All right, so I made a copy paste here. Why didn't anybody call me out on that one? I had the yellow squiggly. We're going to get there. I changed this to log info, but log info only takes one string, whereas print accepts multiple strings. All right. There we go. So we've got our, this is our event type ID. And it's true that this only fires when we get that that specific event, and the payload's empty right now. But we got our four triggers. Then we surpass the count, and we are no longer, we've broken the loop. And this is better because I don't have the recursion anymore, right? So this function ends, and then this callback will queue up a fresh function in a fresh call stack. So I like this better. Now the question is, when do we cut this off? I suppose I suppose our extension needs some variable just to let us know if we should be when it should be firing or not. So in theory, this will be safe. The only thing that we want here is like a self. And variable names are hard. Self reminder enabled, right? If it's enabled, then we do our thing. Just as a way to check if we've done things correctly here. And we don't need this count anymore. And so for now, reminder enabled is true. Okay. So theoretically, if somebody goes into the settings and they decide to turn this off, this could be in the middle of a timer, right? This could be sleeping for 5-10 minutes. And we don't want to get that pop up and once it finally comes around. So we have this variable here that would be controlled by the setting. And even if they turned it off in the middle of a cycle, it would not fire. It would not pop open the window. So this is just our simulation for the window pop-up. And it would not queue up another one. But then when they do enable the setting, that's where we say reminder is enabled again, and we make sure to call the reminder timer, get that started again. So I think we can dive into settings. I don't think there's much more to do here for now. What I wanted to do, which is new to me, is I want my setting to show up. I can definitely do carb settings. That's easy, and that's probably what's used here. But what I want to do is I want my setting to show up in this preferences window. That's my goal. And this is new to me. I've never done this bit. So how can we let's search up this string, path to save screenshots. So we go to search. Because I have my app, this app link here, I can search all of the kit code. So I'm going to search for to save screenshots. Come on. Nope. So there's an extra space there. That might be it. There it is. Cool. Yeah, actually, so when you start up a new extension project, it will automatically have this folder, set up this folder for you, and it's a link to one of your installed Omniverse apps, and it uses that in order to do the autocomplete and all that. If you don't have this folder, then because maybe you got this repository from somebody else or something like that, then you can just run this link app.batch and it'll link to one of the apps, or you can specify exactly which app you want. The other thing that you need to watch out for when you're doing the search is there's these 3 dots, and you want to Which one did you want to do? I thought typically I had to uncheck this. It seems to be working now without unchecking that. But if you're still not getting results, that would be one thing to check. Make sure that this gear is unchecked. But here we have what we were looking for. This is maybe not going to work out the way that I was hoping. So we're going to have to study this a little bit. There's this preference builder class, which is coming from this extension. Unfortunately, what I need is an example that's coming from some other extension, right? Because that was my hope with this preference window, is that any extension could register their settings into it. If they're all in this one extension, that's kind of not going to help. So we might have just gotten unlucky, and I picked a setting that is registered by this base one. But if we search for builder, for the preference builder, then we can look for one of these that might look more interesting. So here's OmniGraph window core. Let me just pick one that I think I'm more familiar with. So time preferences. Window sequencer has sequencer preferences. Okay. Let's look at what that looks like in the app. So is it because I don't have sequencer enabled? I don't have sequencer enabled, so let's enable that one. You have to install it. Forget that. Audio. A lot of these are in this base one. Here's one, manipulator. So transform manipulator. Okay, this looks easy. Let's have a look at that one. Now I lost it. Where did you go? That one. Okay, so we're going to import that business, set up our own class that inherits from it. This is likely going to be the title of the page on the sidebar. This is a frame in the VStack, right? So this would be our VStack. This is the frame. And then we add our settings, and then we tell it which setting it's tied to. So cool. So once that's all hooked up, then I can programmatically change the setting as well, and it should update in there as well. Okay, piece of cake. So what else did I want to do here? Now let's go for it. Okay. Let's double click this so it doesn't go away. We've got some smart engineers. I knew they designed something simple like this. I'm honestly, I came into this completely blind. I did not know how this would work. So I'm pretty happy with it. The other thing that I wanted to check is to see if we have any documentation on this. Just be a note for our devs if we don't have any. So we come over here and look for extension API units. We have quite a few here about window, but not preferences. So I think this is going to be a good one to get out there. Here, this is our older docs, but sometimes some of the docs haven't transitioned out of here yet. Window. There it is. Okay, so we have at least some API reference. I will go ahead and give that note to the devs. Hey, data juggler. So yeah, this is going to be totally relevant to you. We have 15 minutes left. We'll see if we can get to it today. This is also better. I should add this to my code. I pinned for the event. Cool. We have our preference builder. I should just copy the whole thing. Why not? Save reminder preferences. We're just going to totally own this reminders top level. And the frame is going to be called save reminder. Save reminder interval. This here. Float. We'll do int. This is a settings type. That's new to me. It's just coming from here. And before I forget, we should go ahead and add some dependencies to these extensions. So dependencies, omnikit, window, preferences. So this is code that my extension relies on. So when my extension is loaded into any app, this is telling the app, hey, make sure that these extensions are available and loaded before you try to load mine. The curly braces, you can, inside of there, you could set a version, but for now, no version is fine. And then we should have a constants. And I've been doing this for my event types. I've put them in a constants. I don't know if this is necessarily correct. I think this is not, at least it's not constant across sessions. I think the number might change between sessions, but I'm not sure. But I don't want to have two variables, one for this string and then one for the for the ID. So I've been doing it this way. I haven't had any issues yet. And we need some, what are all the things? Save reminder interval. Save interval. And the format for that is persistent exts, then your extension name, and then let's just go to that file. If we don't finish this today, Data Juggler, I'm sure I have another walkthrough for settings. I think specifically the soundboard app. Okay, so this is just good practice here of naming your settings path based off of your extension path. That way there's no conflict when you save your settings with anybody else's settings. Cool, I like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to call that. And now we can go back to our extension here and do from .constants import save reminder fired. And I think we're going to need interval too. And we're going to need it in. Okay. We're going to stick with seconds for now. Yeah, that looks good. You can have, it looks like you can have maximum, minimum. I wonder if this API changed because this is using range from, range to, but we're using min. I don't see any mention of min in here. All right, I'm not going to be too worried about that. Hey, welcome. Yeah, it'll be available right after we're done. So take your time with it. UI is UI. So we have everything we need there. I do want to snag from here. Not this one, but this one. How did they do? So here they load their extension. I'm curious about. And here the registering preferences. What is this all about? Oh, I have to do all this too. Why? This is interesting. I haven't encountered this before, but they have a subscribe to enable, extension enable, which takes care of the registration and unregistering the page. My understanding is that this gets fired and this gets fired when you enable and disable an extension. So I'm going to leave that off for now. And I'm going to ask more about that. But for now, we're just going to do this. Okay. And then I'm sure there's a really good reason for this that I don't know. And then we already registered, and then we need to unregister and set it to none. Also interesting that they only import OmniKit window preferences during these callbacks from the subscription. It's not imported into as a dependency of this extension. In fact, they even declare they do declare the dependency, but it's optional. Cool. So I'll need to find out more about the ins and outs of that. For now, let's just try the naive approach. So before I save, I also just wanted to have a default setting. I was hoping I could steal that from over here. So let's see if they do it in here. But I don't need a setting listener for this. Actually, I will. So when the setting changes from the preference page, I'll need to listen for it so that I can stop the reminder or re-enable it. So we'll get into that. So that's a good example, and we will need a part 2 for sure for those bits, and then I'll be able to have an answer hopefully about why they did the preference page registration like that. For now, we'll just set a default. So we have here in the snippets, we have it's a value of a persistent setting. Ours is persistent because we have the persistent prefix. And all we need to do is get the settings interface and then set the key and the value. So let's do that. We already have carbon here. So this will be at least a good test to make sure we have everything wired up correctly. I'm going to set that to what we said. 5. I think we can store this object, this interface, and we should use it here. Settings has, I thought it had an interface function for getting a value as a particular type. Get an array. Maybe it converts it on the fly. I don't remember. Let's take a quick look at that. Let's import here so I can to it. So we get the settings interface. This isn't going to, oh, there it is. Yeah, so you can do a plain get, which looks like maybe it automatically converts to the right type. So let's trust it. But I have trust issues, so we're going to print it first. Okay. After all that, I would be surprised if I didn't mess up this session with in between all those saves. Let's see. So yeah, so it's actually working, surprisingly. It's printing out 5, which is the setting that I put in by default, and it is an integer. And if I check my preferences, did it update? What did I call this? Reminders? Hey, look at that. Save reminder interval. And then I could up this to 10. It's going to print out. No, is it? We'll find out. Hey, it updated automatically. So now it's going to fire less frequently. So that's good. In fact, I probably don't need a listener at all. Where does that save? Great question, Data Juggler. Let me pull that up. Quick way to get to there is I'm just going to go to some extension because that gets me into the data, into the Omniverse. No, that doesn't get me to the Omniverse structure. Let me pull that up. So all of our stuff is in app data. There's not roaming, but local. And Omniverse data. And it's stored with the app. So if I go to Kit, right now I'm running code 22.3. Here's the user config. If I open that in code, if I search for save interval, here's my extension. So that settings path is just a path into this JSON dictionary, which is really long, but it's in there. So there's extensions, and we find my extension and save an interval. And that's exactly what I have in my constants. Persistent is just a prefix before that, that we had before to say that it's going to go into the JSON, and then it's just extensions and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. So we need a few more settings based on the request from our end user. Just want to see this fire. So what's kind of cool is I don't even need to enable or re-enable. It's reading it on the fly from that setting. So it's firing every second. And the other requests were we obviously need that enable, disable. And then they also wanted to customize the message to be as kind or abusive as they needed it to be to remember to save. So I think that's all the settings. I'll check my notes again to make sure for the next one that we get everything in there. And then we'll need to wire this up to the window to actually dismiss or whatever else we need to do here. But pretty cool. Just a reminder, carb settings are disconnected from this preference window, so you can have settings that don't show up in here. This is just a really nice way to expose settings that you want your users to interact with. You can have a page for your extension and organize them all in there. But otherwise, we have tons of settings that never make it in there. So there's this debug settings in code where you can actually go through here and see some of them are, so here's the EXTS and all the settings. Some of them are persistent, some of them are just for runtime settings so that different extensions can communicate with each other and things like that. But yeah, any questions? We're at the top of the hour. I think this is a good place to stop. But if anybody has any questions before we go, I'm happy to take them. This code will it'll be there's going to be a delay on the availability of this code. I'm going to publish open source this separately from my usual approach, just so that it shows up as a standalone extension. So it'll take possibly a few weeks to get it out the door, but you can always review the videos if you need to. All right, thanks for coming, and we'll resume next week, same time, same day, and hopefully finish this up for next week. We also have a ton of other events this week. Let me just link to the ad event calendar. We have actually doing her Sim Ready Assets series. Isaac Sim team is streaming later today about PyTorch and OmniGraph, which sounds really interesting. We have the walkthrough of Kit development developer features on Wednesday, and then developer office hour on Friday. So there's the link. Hope you can tune in throughout the week, and I'll see you around. Bye.